Meagan, Grega, and I just want to say thank you very much to Stan and also to Larry for inviting me and my co-founder for Fellow Foundation, Eric Root, here to talk with you guys about something that we are passionate about. So we are very, very passionate about being out in the community and helping to make a difference in our neighborhoods. And we found over the course of time, Fellow Foundation has been in existence now 12 years. We tried lots of different strategies, and we've wrapped the whole thing into what we call our Healthy Neighborhood Immersion Initiative. And so that's what we would like to talk with you guys today. So what I want you to kind of put in your brain as we're going through all this presentation, but also when you go back to your places of influence, think about Albert Einstein and say that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And that is how I think we have to approach not only health equity, but health for everybody out into our community. So we've got a couple learning objectives. We're just talking about the relationship between chronic disease prevalence and food insecurity. That was brought up over here about what do we do for people that live in areas where they lack access. And then we're going to talk about some strategies that we use to increase whole food consumption, as well as then summarize a roadmap for how could you maybe do this for your community. So Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania is where we are. Anybody from the Lehigh Valley here? Hello, Dr. Akon, Dr. Grega. Awesome. Okay, we got some good people here. Lehigh Valley is between Philadelphia, Philadelphia and New York. And it's a pretty big area, actually. We're the third largest population center in Pennsylvania after Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. But we're kind of an area that is like a lot of little contiguous towns and cities that have all grown up together. There's about 840,000 residents in our area. We've got a lot of really good things. We've got 10 great colleges and universities. We've got some good employers. But we also have some really unfortunate things, like, for example, 14 different areas that are designated as food deserts. So this is the map for us of where our food deserts are. And if any of you want to find out for your own community what are areas that would be considered food deserts, go to this website down here, the ers.usda.gov, and you can find your criteria. But for us, we've got 14 different food deserts. That's what these green things are. Those little green dots mean not only low income, but also low access. So those two things together are what make it very difficult for our patients to be able to kind of follow the healthy lifestyle recommendations that we're giving. We really focus a lot on Easton, Allentown, and Bethlehem, but also up here in Penardville, Becker, over in Phillipsburg, and those are areas where we do a lot of our programming. So, when you're thinking about patients who have food insecurity, what ends up happening with them? Well, we know that adults that live in food insecure households report fewer weekly servings of fruits and vegetables, not very surprising, lower levels of micronutrients, and decreased food variety, so they're eating kind of the same stuff all the time. So that's pretty not surprising. But it might be a little surprising to know that there is an association with increased BMI for people in areas of food insecurity and food insecure households, especially women. And there's this connection with cyclical eating patterns where they have increased food at the beginning of the month, so they're eating a lot more then, less later in the month. There can be metabolic consequences to that. And that they have the preference for inexpensive, highly palatable, and energy-dense foods. I feel like the entire American population has a preference for that type of food too. But in food insecure households, that type of food makes up a higher percentage of their diet, which is causes some health problems. And if you are living in a food insecure area, food is not your only problem most of the time. There's other problems. There's job problems. There's family problems. There's maybe mental health problems, all sorts of different things happening. And so people who are in these households usually will have chronic stress responses, including increased cortisol. We know where that puts your weight, as well as a neuropeptide Y. So if you have patients that are living in a food insecure household, you can expect that they have actually an increased risk of diabetes of 50%. I think that's appalling. When you think about how high our type 2 diabetes rate is anyway, now we have people living in food insecure areas and their risk is 50% higher. This is a place that is worthwhile to put our resources as a society. I believe Dr. Sharp was talking about how expensive diabetes is. If we know that we can help improve that by improving somebody's food access, it's going to be a worthwhile investment. So if they are living in a food insecure household, they're more likely to have diabetes, their diabetes is more likely to be uncontrolled, they have a higher risk of hypertension, and they're also having a whole host of other things that make it likely that they are not having the best of health, like that they're daily tobacco users or lack health insurance. So here in the Lehigh Valley, we have all of those things, definitely that we're dealing with. Our obesity rate is about 30%, our diabetes rate is about 12%, which is higher than the national average, and we have about a 10% food insecure number for the people that would test positive on one of those questionnaires. So 10% is getting better for us, believe it or not. It used to be worse, but that's still 84,000 people. So that is a lot of people for us to be focused on. We also are having problems with getting enough exercise, with our physical inactivity, not getting enough sleep. So how many of you guys would say that you did not get enough sleep? Yes. So this is a pretty common thing as well. That these numbers are actually for our whole population in the Lehigh Valley, not just people that are living in the food insecure areas. So we've got some lifestyle medicine things to work on, not just food. And we have in our health needs assessment see that about 20% of people are drinking alcohol in a way that would be considered risky. And these are our actual daily fruit and vegetable servings coming from our most recent community health needs assessment. How many of you guys are in an area that you do community health needs assessments? This is a great thing to leverage when you need to look for funding or support for whatever programs you want to do out in the community, is look at your hospital's community health needs assessment. What was identified as something that is important to focus on? So St. Luke's is one of the hospitals in the Lehigh Valley that has done this in 2016 and 2019, and unfortunately we are still down at about only 10% of our population saying that they're getting 5 fruits and vegetables a day, which is kind of like the minimum amount that we would recommend. So we know we've got some work to do there. And as a doctor, I would love to think that my expertise and my decisions and recommendations are going to make the difference for the longevity and the healthy lifespan of my patients. But I would be kidding myself if I thought it was all up to me, because we know that only about 20% of the outcome for somebody's life as far as morbidity and mortality has to do with the clinical care that they receive. I mean, it's very important for us as doctors, and definitely if you have a car accident or a brain aneurysm, you need excellent care immediately. But as far as long-term health outcomes, 80% is really affected more by your health behaviors, your social and economic factors, the physical environment where you live. So if we as physicians want to make an impact on this very egregious epidemic of chronic disease that we currently have, we have to look outside our own little sphere of our clinics and our hospitals. Those are important, but get back out to where people live, work, and play, because that's where their decisions about their health are being made. So I would say regarding healthy lifestyles, there's no lack of information. We've got lots of information about the choices that lead to the longest, what I like to call play span, as opposed to lifespan, like the longest of living healthy. But there's a lack of implementation. So how many of you guys are frustrated with the amount of implementation that you see in your communities for healthy lifestyles? And I know I was, and that's part of why Kellogg Foundation came into being, is to implement. So how can we try to implement? One of the things I want you to think about in your own world has to do with choice architecture and the power of social nudges. So I put down here at the bottom, this is a book called Nudge by Baylor and Sunstein. It's not a doctor book. It is a how do you set up your environment so that the choices that you think are going to be best for you in the long run are the most likely to happen. And so even if you're thinking about something like the organ donation on people's driver's cards, their driver IDs, if you're in a state where you are an opt-out state, you get a lot more organ donors than if you are a state that you have to opt in to be an organ donor. Same sort of thing with the choices we make every day. We're likely to do whatever is the most easy, most convenient. So if you end up walking out of your house or your school and you see this, that's giving you a very different nudge of what the social norm in your society is, versus if you walk out and you see this, which is our Eat Real Food Mobile Market. Eat Real Food Mobile Market is a 24-foot trailer that we take into areas of food insecurity and hang out in front of schools and religious institutions and community centers, and try to be in the places where people are anyway, so that this type of food is convenient. And if everybody that you see around you is eating like this, that just becomes the norm. You know, that's probably what you're going to end up having for dinner. It's a very different message than if you see people doing things like this. These are our gardens at some of the elementary schools. And I just love the look on this kid's face, right? He just pulled that out, and it's almost like, what, there's carrots in there? You can tell he's going, what's going on? Or how about this type of a social nudge? This is out in the community cooking demonstrations, or classes, really, where the kids are cooking with us, as well as these are a big bunch of members of our local Rotary Club. So not only is it healthy food, it's also social connection. Or how about if you live in a community where you actually see people out walking or doing Tai Chi? That gives you the type of social nudge that this is a normal thing I should be doing, and hopefully that is easily accessible. So when you look at that, that's kind of what Callan Foundation is trying to do in the Lehigh Valley, is set up the choice architecture with a bunch of other partners so that the healthy choice is the easy choice. So we have 4 different cornerstones, I should say. One is Callan Health. That has to do with actually more healthcare type things, intervention programs and CME for providers. Then we have Callan Schools, which is going into the local elementary schools, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and teaching classroom by classroom in fun, interactive ways, getting the kids involved, these healthy lifestyle choices to try to get them to think of their own selves as food detectives and how do they want their body to be. And that's also where our school garden programs go. Then there's also Callan Kitchens, which is going out into the community, the senior centers, and doing food classes and cooking classes together. So not just demonstrations, but people actually coming up and doing the cooking together, sitting together and eating, and then having the recipes at the end that they can all take home. And then the other key thing is Callan Food Access, and that has to do with taking nutrient-dense, fresh produce and other healthy food into the areas of food insecurity here in the Lehigh Valley, so that people can access the things that we're trying to teach them that we think would be good to eat. So we wrap all 4 of those pillars together into what we call our Healthy Neighborhood Immersion Strategy. And when you think about Healthy Neighborhood Immersion, what we're saying is that the neighborhood, we want to immerse the neighborhood, which we define as the catchment area of an elementary school. Because elementary schools are awesome hubs for your community. That's a great way to reach out to the families. It's a great way to get people information out, things like that. So take an elementary school, figure out where their catchment area is, and then put a lot of your services into that area so that you're trying to sort of shift that social norm. So we want to immerse them with healthy lifestyle education, interactive opportunities like the school gardens, but also fresh local food access so that we really are trying to make the healthy choice the easy choice in these communities. So here's some examples of us in the classrooms with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, teaching them about healthy food. And we like to do it on a small classroom basis as opposed to the big auditoriums because the kids they do a lot more interaction. We do pre-tests and post-tests so we can figure out what sort of knowledge they have that they gain. But the key is we go to the same schools every year, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. The curriculum builds on itself. So we kind of become a part of that community. So when we walk in with these green shirts that all of our instructors wear, when we walk in, kids are like, hey, you're the healthy people. What did you bring us to eat? Because we are almost always eating with them. So they kind of get to know us. So we've got our classroom presentations. These are our garden as a classroom. So for these schools, which are schools where we're already doing the in-classroom presentations, we also built school gardens and then mentored not only the kids, but also the parents and the staff, all the way from seed planting to harvesting. And this is actually in the summertime where they're taking some of the greens, the salad greens and the kale home. And even into having things like the zucchini. So if you give a child seeds that they grow, they get so excited about that plant. It's like a pet. Like they have that plant on the windowsill. They come in. The teachers say that they check on it first thing in the morning. It's very likely that kid is going to try whatever vegetable actually grows from that plant. So this is a great way, actually one of the most effective ways that we found to get kids to try vegetables is to have them actually have a hand in growing them themselves. So if we're trying to convince kids to eat this way, we want to make sure that it's available. So this is the Eat Real Food Mobile Market. This is one of our little guys from Marvine Elementary. And what we do is where our market is there outside the school when the class is let out for the day, especially the walking schools. So that way, the families can kind of rely on us as their healthy grocery store on wheels. We're there at the same time every week through the growing season. So what happens is the kids will come running out because they know that Eric and I and the rest of our mobile market team have free samples, right? Like there's something for them to check on every day. But they get used to the idea that this is a normal thing to have out in your school parking lot, and they start to bring money to have their snacks. So like this little guy, every week he would come with $1, and he'd be like, "What can I have for $1?" And so we'd look at what we had available, and we'd cut it up like this day. You got the cantaloupe actually. But then he would go and share it with his friends. And I was like, this is why I went into medicine. This. So that we can go out and give kids fruits and vegetables, and they share it with each other. Then they go home and they tell their parents, like, the mobile market has peaches, or hey, we have this, and then they bring the parents back. So it's a way to engage the whole community, but definitely by making it convenient. So on the mobile market, we accept cash, we accept credit and debit, we accept the EBT SNAP card, and the FMMP WIC vouchers and senior vouchers, and also something called Lehigh Valley Fresh Food Bucks, which is a double value program for our SNAP EBT customers. This is another picture of the mobile market, and this one over here I wanted to show because of the seniors. We often don't remember that the seniors have food access issues as well, because it's not always financial. A lot of times it's transportation. So the mobile market goes to senior living facilities and sets up in their community room so that they can come down and get the fresh fruits and veggies there too. And then the other thing is the mobile market can't be there all the time. So what do? Mobile market's there for 2 to 3 hours a week at each of our 12 sites. But what do we do for the people when we're not, or our patients, I should say, when we're not there? What we've been able to do is work with the corner stores in those food insecure neighborhoods and act as their wholesale produce supplier. So one of the big reasons that corner stores don't have fresh produce is not because they don't want to have it, it's because they don't have the cooler space and they can't buy it cheaply enough in small enough quantities because they don't go through it as quickly. We, since we're in the neighborhoods anyway, we're able to provide them much smaller ordering opportunities, and since it's local, they can use for their EBT card holders that double up SNAP Bucks program. So now there's a business incentive for them to be doing it. And this has been a very successful way to get produce into the neighborhood, not just during the time the mobile market's there, but even throughout the rest of the week and the rest of the year. And then we cross-promote it. So if we're having apples at the mobile market, which we almost always do, and then when the kids are like, we love these apples, we say, hey, that's great. That corner store right down the street over there, they have these apples too. So you can make that connection. So if we get everybody excited and we get the food to them, then we have to make sure that they can cook it so that it tastes like something that they want to eat. So Kelly Kitchens is one of our other, I think, the second most effective way to get people to include more nutrient-dense food into their diets is by actually cooking with them. Handing recipes is good, but being able to actually cook together as a social experience seems to really make an impact. So I love this picture because it's in the senior center, and for a lot of you guys, senior living facilities, they often have little kitchens in their community room that if you come in, you can do a cooking thing with the seniors, and you don't even have to worry about hauling as much of the stuff that you usually would have to in another location. But I love this picture because it's like the future, right? So this is a Lehigh University student. This was a Temple St. Luke's medical student who's now a family medicine resident. And this is one of our family medicine residents. So it's like bringing them out and connecting them to the community really also helps them then counsel their patients in a different way. This is also Kelly Kitchens. This is out in Easton Area Community Center. So this is where kids in the West Ward of Easton get to hang out in the summertime. And so we go in and do an 8-week cooking class with them. And so what we do with all these kids, this is only some of them, but there's a bunch of them that come up and do the chopping and stirring, and then the most important thing, the eating afterwards. So we'd ask these kids the week before, hey, what do you guys want to cook next week? And I think that's actually another really key thing, is that communication. It's not just you coming in as the doctor or whatever other community worker saying, we are going to do this. You'd have to the first time you do something with somebody, but then get some sort of feedback. What would they like to do? And try and integrate that. So these kids had said they really wanted to have spaghetti. And we're like, okay, how can we make healthier spaghetti? So we made zucchini noodles. So we took the zucchinis into that. We made the tomato sauce with lots of veggies in it, all straight tomatoes, no extra sugar or anything like that. And then we used some whole grain pasta so that it was more like, what they're used to. And they ate it up. And they had no idea. They were eating 3 servings of vegetables just with that one meal. But that's what we told the parents. So like, see, you can actually get these sort of sneaky things in there. This is also county kitchens, but what I love about this is these are residents. So we do a culinary medicine experience for residents where they come and actually do all this cooking and chopping and enjoying, and then sitting and eating together. And this, I think, is another really effective way to get the information out to a bunch of patients, because if your residents, who are about to become the doctors in your community, get comfortable with being able to advise their patients on healthier swaps, that's like a serious multiplier effect. Besides the fact that they have a great time. I think this was one of the days that I saw the most smiles and laughter of the residents as they're trying to figure out how to. Some people have cooking skills, like some of us grew up in families like that, but other people are trying to figure out, what do I do with this zucchini or something like, and you can see that they're all working together. This is also county kitchens, but this is our kitchen staff that make what we call lifestyle medicine meals. So we have a lifestyle medicine meal pickup service that people can get on our email list, and we send out the menu the week ahead of time, and you can choose to order or you don't choose to order. You can pick it up at multiple locations, either with us or on the mobile market, and that's the key. You want to make this type of food as convenient as possible. The fast food industry has done an excellent job at making it that if you're hungry, there's conveniently easy, though nutritionally empty food available. We're trying to use the same philosophy, but with stuff that's actually going to nourish people over the long run. So what is the impact of the Healthy Neighborhood Immersion Program? This is our 2018 to 2019 school program summary. So we went to 39 different elementary schools in 9 different school districts in the Lehigh Valley. We saw 789 individual classroom visits, reaching over 9,400 students. And one of the really important things is individual classroom visits, and that the Callan staff went out and did this. When we first thought of doing all this 12 years ago, we had a train-the-trainer model, and we were like, oh, we'll make a curriculum, we'll teach the teachers, everybody will want to do it, it'll be great. And the teachers went, I have enough to do. They're like, you're welcome to come in and into our classrooms and do it together, and they've become amazing partners with us at adding it into homework assignments. You know, like we do red, yellow, green classification systems, the label reading for 4th grade. They put that into homework, or they talk about it in the science lessons. But they did not want to take the responsibility of doing this themselves. And I think that's a really important thing to think about when whatever sort of intervention you want to do in the community. Make sure you're making it as easy as possible for the schools, easy as possible for the principals. Make sure that you are consistent and reliable and you come back. But don't ask for the teachers to do additional work, because they are already pretty much at the end of their rope. But now, they're in there doing the songs with us and hanging out, so they do want to have that interaction from the community. The other thing here I want to show is that for some of these schools, we've been in them since 2010, 2012, and that has really made the difference, because we see the culture shift the longer that we are there in the schools. And it's interesting because even the teachers will be like, oh, hey, you changed that on your PowerPoint from last year. Like, as we're sort of changing things because of evidence, they are starting to think about this. And actually, we just are starting its now. I'm a little behind on my school scheduling this year. And I'm getting emails from teachers going, aren't you guys coming back? Like, isn't it time for you to be here? So we've kind of become part of that community. So I would really recommend, it's difficult because funding is always an issue, but if you are going to go into a community, start small and do something that you can sustain. Because there's been a lot of, over the past 20 years or so, oh, you get a grant, you get to go to a project, then the money runs out, then you leave, and then a couple years later you got money for a different project. The community has noticed, or at least ours has, and they're looking for people that are going to partner and stay. Here's our elementary school gardening impact. We have 26 schools that have in 8 different school districts. So we've got 26 school gardens. So the school curriculum is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, like I mentioned, but it goes into different parts of the Pennsylvania standards. And that's a key thing if you're going into school programs, is how does it align? And for us, 3rd grade is Eat Real Food. That's talking about fresh, non-processed, whole fruits and vegetables. That goes into the science curriculum, as well as it talks about growing your own food, which I think was brought up by Dr. Schrager over here. Like, let's get people growing more of their own food again. 4th grade is red, yellow, green, which is the label reading. 5th grade is eating out survival skills. So that's like, okay, you go to McDonald's sometimes, right? Or you're gonna go out into the community or to a party. What's your healthiest choice? Then there's a garden that we talked about, Garden is a classroom program. But another key one is our Veggie Challenge, which is all about a science experiment on your own body to change your taste buds. And it's a 10-week thing that we do with the kids. We have found if kids engage at home and try the vegetable that they like the least over 10 weeks, that about 2/3 to 3/4, depending on the school, actually like the vegetable that they didn't like at the beginning. But we turn it into something fun and a challenge. But it's behavior change without even the kids even realizing it. Now, how about the mobile market? The mobile market has been on the road now for 4 seasons, and this gives you an idea of how we're doing as far as getting engagement from the community. This is how many pounds of produce have we sold on the market. And in 2016, it was about 6.5 tons. Here it was about 10 tons. 2018, it was 15 tons. This year is just year to date, but we're almost up to 20 tons of produce that's actually being purchased. And so when we first started the Mobile Market Initiative, a lot of people in our community were like, nobody's gonna want that food. Like, you're gonna take it in there, nobody's gonna want it. And we said, well, let's give it a try. We are not advertising. We're just making the food convenient and affordable and very accessible. And we've seen that the community has really responded, that this is something that they want. It's just something that there was too many hurdles for previously. This is another really cool program that we're doing with St. Luke's University Health Network, which is a fruit and vegetable prescription voucher program. So certain disease states, people who are in certain clinics are given a food voucher that they can use on the mobile market. Some clinics are using $10 vouchers, some are using $20 vouchers. But we now have a program this year where certain people have been chosen to actually do kind of almost like a quality improvement project and say, if you get $20 of fresh produce that you can choose yourself, because it's not like a bag of it, you can go to the mobile market and choose it. If you do that every week for 20 weeks, what's going to happen to your disease state, basically? And we've seen a huge increase in the mobile market fruit, vegetable prescription redemption this year. The first couple of years we were just trying to figure it out. But now you can see the impact. Corner stores are also going up as far as how many corner stores are engaged. And a lot of times we talk about the patient perspective, which is very important, but how about the local economy perspective? And so the local economy perspective from the mobile market is that we're purchasing from local farms, usually farms that would not be able to access traditional wholesale channels. So I think we talked a bunch about those impacts already. I wanted you to see, to do something like this, you need a lot of partners. And so we have a bunch of people over the Lehigh Valley that have donated time, treasure, and talent to be able to make the Healthy Neighborhood Immersion work. So the biggest roadmap, or the biggest pieces of the roadmap that I would say, since we're almost out of time, is the key to all of this is relationships. It's going in and being with the community, not going in and doing to the community, but going in and being a part of the fabric of the community. And when you do that, make sure that you are gathering metrics, because you're going to have to show people what's going on if you want to keep getting funded so that you keep going. But even more importantly, share your story so that people in the community know what you're doing. And you'll find a lot of people that want to help. This is one of my favorite Confucius sayings that I'll leave out there. And then, Stan, is there time for a question? Anything like that?
No.
No questions. Thank you guys so much.